Okay, it's just after 9:30, so I guess we'll get started. I'm Sara Bodinson. I'm the Director of Interpretation and Research at the Museum of Modern Art, which is in the Department of Education. And in today's talk, I'm going to focus on the collaborative and iterative processes of research and development for MoMA Audio Plus mobile guide, which recently launched at the museum, as well as on some early visitor feedback on the mobile guide. So MoMA has a long history of developing audio content, including mostly interview-based tours for the collection and special exhibitions, a visual descriptions tour developed with and for blind and partially sighted visitors with very detailed descriptions of works of art, and a kids tour, which is scripted and pretty fun and interactive for families. And those tours are the only interpretive content that's free of charge and available in 9 languages at the museum. So in 2004, the museum was able to start offering these free of charge thanks to generous corporate sponsorship. And as a result, the audio has become one of the most widely used interpretive resources that MoMA offers. We have worked with an outside vendor for several years to produce this content while retaining the copyright to the material. So this free distribution in tandem with the copyright ownership meant that in addition to offering it on site, we could also offer it through a variety of online channels, which you can see here. So the old devices that we had up there, mobile program, Google Art Project, a whole range of platforms. Sure, sorry? Yes, yeah. The audio content became the basis for MoMA's mobile program, which started with a browser-based Wi-Fi tour in 2008 and now includes apps for both Android and iOS platforms. And in July 2013, we launched a beta version of MoMA Audio Plus mobile guide, which is currently available at the museum only, and in the coming months will be available as a free downloadable app for your own device. So this downloadable version will replace our existing apps in the Google and Apple stores. So in 2012, a cross-departmental working group at MoMA convened to reimagine interpretive support and engagement for our visitors. And the primary focus was to determine what form of mobile interpretation might replace our traditional audio guide wands. But it was also an important opportunity to think more holistically and collaboratively about the visitor experience, from live programs to digital engagement to physical spaces. The core group meets every 2 weeks and includes emerging and senior level staff from the departments of education, digital media, curatorial, IT, finance, development, and visitor services. And each member is responsible, or most of the members are responsible for leading subgroups that can involve an even wider network of staffers in brainstorming, piloting, and evaluating new ideas related to the following focus areas, which you can see here. So the social engagement and participation group, which I talked a little bit about yesterday, focused on some initiatives for game design, participatory learning spaces, live tweeting events, etc. The content group did a lot of research about the content needs of our visitors and then, of course, worked on content development. Devices and distribution. So my colleague Deb Howes, who's here, she was involved in this group, and that was really looking at if and what kind of devices we would continue to distribute, and a lot about the accessibility features of those devices. And then resources and sponsorship was about funding and continued corporate sponsorship. And infrastructure and software was really important to start thinking several months, more than a year in advance. And we have Wi-Fi coverage, but improving Wi-Fi, improving networks, firewalls, servers, and building a media production studio at the museum. So throughout this process, which you can see at the center, visitor research and evaluation has been instrumental in allowing the team to prototype, test, and iterate upon new ideas. Fortunately, in education, we have an in-house research fellow to help design and conduct small and large-scale studies. Team members were actively encouraged to take part in conducting evaluations, so it wasn't just the researcher, but people on the individual teams and curators and others were involved. And collectively, we've completed a number of studies that helped answer some key questions about visitor needs and behaviors, from interviewing visitors about the questions they have about modern and contemporary art to finding out about how people are using their own mobile devices in the galleries. So just a couple of slides on that. So in one study, we found that the vast majority of visitors, even those who come with their own devices, still prefer to pick up a museum-provided device. They cited anxieties about battery life and data plans or roaming charges. So some of these were actual barriers, while others are perceived. For example, MoMA offers free and comprehensive public Wi-Fi throughout the galleries, retail, dining, and interstitial spaces. However, it became clear that many visitors were not aware of this or were unclear on how to access the Wi-Fi. So we've made a more concerted effort to improve signage and messaging and training frontline staff about who field most of the visitor questions about this. It's important to, and also when I'm presenting this research, it's obviously very important to bear in mind that these findings are very specific to MoMA and at this particular moment in time. So again, since I mentioned our audio program's free and the international visitors make up about 50% of our audience. So I would definitely not take these findings and apply them to your museum, and I would recommend conducting similar research at your own institutions. In another study, we found that 74% of visitors brought a mobile device with them, and of those people, 59% brought an iPhone. And when we interviewed a number of them we were doing observation interviews, and when we interviewed them about how they were using their mobile devices at MoMA, again, not in general, but we found that a significant number of them were searching for information about specific artists and works of art, taking photos and sharing those photos, and other information about their visit through email and social media while they were in the galleries. And we, again, intend to keep conducting this kind of research as we know that these kinds of behaviors are shifting rapidly. So based on these results, we made a series of decisions, and that's a very truncated presentation of the research, but based on the results of our kind of preliminary research, we made a series of decisions about the future of mobile at the museum. So first, that our visitors weren't ready to shift to an entirely bring your own device solution. So for now, we'll continue providing devices at the museum until we notice a shift in behaviors and preferences. Secondly, given our very high take-up rate, the need to staff multiple distribution points, and the amount of content produced, we decided that MoMA still needed external support for device distribution, maintenance, and audio production, even though we remain highly involved in all of these aspects. We decided to build the core or in-museum app, so even though I'm referring to it as a mobile guide, it's actually an iOS app for iOS devices. And this was based not only on our visitor familiarity, but also a level of expertise of our in-house developers and what they have in terms of the iOS platform. And also to build, probably most significantly, it was to build on the fact that in the Apple Store, I think over 1 million people have downloaded MoMA's free app, so this will replace the public app ultimately. And so we had this group of people, this massive group of people that already had it, so it'll be pushed out as an update this spring. We also decided to integrate photo taking and sharing into the app and ways to aggregate and layer in the wealth of other content the museum produced over the years. And we really wanted to make it easier for visitors to discover multiple perspectives and points of information on a single work of art. We also found that many visitors are familiar with the term audio guides, so we branded the mobile guide as MoMA Audio Plus. So besides including a word our visitors still look for, it also is reflective of the fact that audio continues to be one of the main interpretive resources on the app, especially for non-English speakers, since I mentioned the audio is available in 9 languages, whereas the labels are not, and wall texts and whatnot. At the same time, the plus signals the addition of a lot of new features and content. So simultaneous with a lot of the formative visitor research that was being conducted, The content subgroup convened thinkers from across the museum to take part in an agile development exercise. So each participant was randomly assigned a set of visitor personas for which they would write visitor stories, scenarios that articulated what the person might want to achieve within the mobile space. So for instance, I think we had parent, student, social media enthusiast, film goer, member, a whole really wide variety of personas. And if you're not familiar with the process, the stories take the structure of kind of like Mad Libs, where, as you can see here, as a role, so your role that you're assigned, I can do a certain task to achieve a certain goal. So for example, one that we wrote was, as a student, I can find all the artworks by Henri Matisse and send myself links so that I can see the works and save all my notes for a class assignment. So dozens and dozens of stories emerged from this session, and we categorized them to help inform the initial scaffolding of content, functionalities, and features for the mobile tour, which we then refined over the next several weeks. So after the visitor stories were written, education and digital media had working sessions over the course of, I would say, several weeks to visualize those stories as wireframes. So here's one of our initial drawings, whiteboard drawings that we photographed. And this, so we drew sketches of interface ideas. So for example, this was an early wireframe sketch that was eventually developed into the camera and photo sharing feature. To develop the app, MoMA's developers did pair programming with a company called Pivotal Labs. So they're an agile development firm. One MoMA programmer with one Pivotal programmer literally sit side by side working on the same code. So at the kickoff to this process, there's what's called an Inception meeting to define the work the programmers will be doing. It's a full day and covers a lot of ground. It starts with a look at the big picture. So who is this app for? What are the goals? What are the risks? What are the different activities that need to take place? Then there's a story mapping exercise where all of the features we wanted to include were written on index cards, which were then organized by area, such as home screen or object detail. And these mostly take the form of user can, so such as user can take a picture and user can share a picture. Breaks are an absolute necessity during this process, and luckily Pivotal has a ping pong table. I'm very jealous because I was not there that day at another meeting, but I will definitely be at the second one. And after the break, there's an exercise to estimate the amount of effort and prioritize all of the stories indicated here by ones and twos. So you assign points to the difficulty of developing each story, and you play various games to assign the points. There are a lot of different forms of agile development, and actually there's a great paper that was written a couple of years ago for Museums in the Web that describes the process and some variations on it. And you know, what we did at MoMA and what we did here were variations on what have been written about, but can kind of get the idea. So this meeting sets up the entire project, and from that point on, it's really about refining and reprioritizing the stories and then implementing. To keep track of all these stories as they are being implemented, we used a shared browser-based program called Pivotal Tracker. So you can see here items that have been finished, those that are ready to be approved and accepted, and then items that are in the process and others that are ready to start. So during development, stories are prioritized and reprioritized into stories that are done in the backlog or in the icebox, which means they will not be developed immediately. We also use collaborative tools for the design process. So this program is called Notism, and this is one of the early wireframes for one feature of the app. And this program allowed us to upload wireframe images and annotate them with the intended behaviors and other notes. And this was really important because most of us were at MoMA, but we're in different departments, and then the programmers were downtown at Pivotal, so we're in constant communication and able to give feedback, very detailed feedback. We continued to use this program throughout the rest of the design process, and this is one of the screen designs. And as I mentioned, so the pink and purple numbers are notes and commentary on the design. One more. Regular meetings were also important throughout the project. So those included daily stand-up meetings for the developer team, and that's another kind of key signature of agile development, are these standing meetings for 10 or 15 minutes. Weekly iteration planning meetings, so that was with the developers and then the project team. So that was usually a conference call with them to go through all of the items that were in the current and upcoming iterations, just to make sure we had all the stuff ready for them to start development. Meetings with the core RISE team, which was this cross-departmental team at MoMA. So those were every 2 weeks to track the project progress of work by each of the subgroups. And then in the months leading up to launch, we made a series of presentations to various departments at the museum, including the curatorial forum, marketing, visitor services, retail, education, et cetera. And this really helped not only inform them about the project, but also they were able to raise with us a lot of the logistical issues or questions, and it just really brought a variety of perspectives that helped us anticipate issues before launch. We gave a presentation to senior staff at a quarterly digital strategy meeting probably a few months before launch, and this was really the first time where they were able to see they championed this team approach and collaborative approach, but this was the first time they were able to see the results of our research and our thinking coming together. So they were very enthusiastic, and it definitely represented a turning point in the process. So now I'm going to show you a few features of MoMA Audio Plus. So MoMA's current mobile site and public app, are much more list-based, and we wanted this new version to be more image-based, in part to make it easier to quickly browse and search for works while walking through the galleries. The content is broken up into horizontal image streams that can be scrolled through, but there's also a search feature available throughout. So you can search for an audio number or an artist name or object name. These, or year, it's really unlimited. You can just search anything and see how it results. So these options enable both quick access and organic exploration. Definitely, I mean, we are in the process of implementing analytics into the update that's being pushed out this week, but so far it seems more visitors are using the search function rather than the browse function, which may be habit from using audio guides over the years or could signal some user interface tweaks that we need to make. In addition to audio, other interpretive content is aggregated around each object screen, including object information, which are basically the captions, extended object labels, some MoMA highlights text, which are a little lengthier texts, related works, location, etc. Transcripts of audio content are available, and for any text, you can increase the font size, which was, I think, drawing on the iOS native functionalities. Text-to-speech is also available, both for accessibility purposes, but also so that visitors don't, if they choose, don't have to read a lot of interpretive text while in the galleries and can focus on viewing the artwork in front of them. We took advantage of the device's built-in camera to create an integrated photo-taking feature so visitors could document their visit. And then photos and basically all other content can be shared via email. So since late August, visitors have actually, I think they've taken over 1 million photographs at this point, averaging about 8 to 10 photos per visitor, or per user rather. And integration with social networks. We couldn't integrate social networks into the one that we're distributing because that would require various apps to be running and security and logging in and out. So that will be integrated into the public app. So email is the way people can share in this version. And the last feature that I wanted to highlight is My Path, which saves every work of art or audio a visitor explores or favorites. It happens seamlessly as you're using the app, as well as every photo taken, and presents them in a dashboard that can be accessed later on MoMA.org. So there are 3 different views of the dashboard. The first is a visual representation of the data from your visit, more like a data visualization, like a Fitbit or something. From the other one is, the central one is, so from the duration to the number of objects viewed in the app to the most viewed artist and more. So that's in the dashboard version. The second is a timeline showing everything you did in the app in sequence. And the final view is organized by type, including the items that you favorited, the photos you took, audio listened to, and more. Visitors have the option to enter their email to receive a link to their path, but you're not required to enter your email if you don't want. And I think almost 40% of visitors have been entering their email to access their path later. And this helps fulfill certainly one of our goals for MoMA Audio Plus, which was to connect the experiences of MoMA across devices and between the in-museum visit, online, and mobile. So I'm going to show a quick video and talk through that. It's silent. So this just shows the language selection. That's the email screen coming up. Now he's going to select a different language, English. So this is the tours page and showing you how you can horizontally scroll through the different audio tours. Press play. I think the volume is not working on this video, which was something that was happening this morning too.
Have an audio feed.
Oh, got it. Sure. There's not too much audio in there, but okay. Oh, well, now it's not in the audio, but now it's showing the work on the map. Continue scrolling to see other Magritte works in that gallery. Taking a photo. This was shot at someone's desk, so otherwise they would be in the gallery. Now, this is the way you enter an audio number to call up a tour stop. So again, you would be hearing the audio. It wasn't working this morning either when I got the video. Going back to the menu, the collection. You also can search through the collection. You don't have to go through tours. You can navigate the collection by floor, by chronology, by artist. Or I'm sorry, by collection area, because our galleries are organized by media. So we have architecture and design, painting and sculpture. You can navigate by those galleries. There's the layered content below, text, gallery texts, other texts, continuing the audio stop, and I think we're almost done. So. Oh, and that's scrolling through what you've done. This is basically the timeline version of what you have viewed. So your photo, you can delete any element from your path, and that's it. It's a little demo. So MoMA Audio Plus launched in July 2013. The first few weeks, as you can imagine, involved a lot of on-the-fly decision-making and adjustments in terms of operations and infrastructure. There were various factors contributing to this, including we were in the process of switching audio guide vendors. We were rolling out a new brand identity. Even if you just add a plus to your title, it requires new signage and stuff online as well. So we were tweaking the Wi-Fi in different places throughout the building, implementing planned and unplanned network and firewall upgrades, because it's basically almost impossible to test the impact of 2,000 devices until they're physically on site and drying, siphoning off of your network. So we did a lot in advance, certainly, but we had to make some adjustments after launch. And then training frontline staff, including security officers, volunteers, visitor services, to make sure they were familiar with the new program and device, because they're absolutely critical for communicating with visitors, answering questions, and also reporting back to us. So we had several meetings with security at the end of the day, several days into it, to get their feedback and issues they were seeing on the floor, and common questions about technical glitches and the impact they were having on the visitor experience. So a team, including staff from education, digital media, and IT, and then Antenna International, which is our current vendor, gathered once or twice daily. So pretty much in the morning at like 9:30 and then at 5:30, just to check in and troubleshoot and exchange information as necessary. So after launch, we're definitely still in the process of refining and tweaking the in-museum app, and we're about to embark on additional development for the downloadable version. We've just had a few of those initial brainstorming conversations and starting to prioritize new features that would not necessarily be in the core app, but will be in the public app. And some of the tweaks that we've been making include design and user experience enhancements informed by interviews with visitors. So we interviewed 100 visitors who used MoMA Audio Plus. We surveyed the entire frontline staff, the antenna staff, to get their input on all of the issues they were having, or positives. And then we also just conducted user testing last week. So to get a better sense of, additionally, to get a better sense of how people are using the mobile guide, we just implemented analytics, and it's being programmed right now in an updated version of the app this week. And I would say one of the major advantages of working in this agile way is that you can refine and change and add to the app over time. So as I mentioned, we've already started our brainstorming process for the public app, and we're focusing a lot on features that would kind of relate to the customization of this, or personalization of the museum experience, and features that foster a more social aspect of museum going. And then also some navigational stuff as well. So I guess I wanted to share a few takeaways from the project that may be relevant to potentially any institution. I would say collaborating from the outset so that all parties are invested and informed from the start. So this includes using the collaborative tools and processes, not only working in such a collaborative manner across the museum. This way of working allowed us to accomplish a tremendous amount over the course of 18 months, and it really could not have been done if so many departments and different skill sets weren't involved. And it also allowed us, the regular meetings allowed us to achieve surmountable goals along the way, so it wasn't so overwhelming. I would also say research and evaluation should be conducted before and ongoing, and in an iterative way to make sure to leave time and budget to make changes based on your findings. So being agile really allows you to prepare for and adapt to the unknown. Related to this visitor research, build upon native visitor behaviors and let visitor stories guide the development. So for example, the photo feature on the app was an acknowledgement of something that people are already doing in the galleries rather than trying to fight against it. We embraced it. And actually that's had an impact on MoMA's photo taking policy in their loan forms. So we allow any work of art in our collection to be photographed if it's traveling now. And so they're really trying to set that standard and encourage other institutions to allow that when they loan works to us. And then I guess one thing that I think is huge is to take a holistic view of the visitor experience, so from digital platforms to live programs to physical spaces. And I talked about some of those other initiatives yesterday, but I think it's really important to remember that mobile is only one element and needs to be considered within this larger context of interpretive programming and resources. It can't do everything for you. And then finally, remember the launch is only the beginning, so leave time for testing. We found that visitors were pretty flexible and willing to participate if they were, and are agreeable if they knew that that we were in a testing phase. But the work does not end when you launch. It really requires a lot of adjustment and awareness of how something on such a large scale, especially that's free and really readily used interpretive resource can have a major impact on the visitor experience. If there's a glitch one day or the network is freezing up one day, you really have to be very responsive. So being aware of that. It's not like you're launching it and sending it out into the world with no ramifications. So that really helped I think we learned a lot of things along the way about just keeping frontline staff informed if there were any glitches on a particular day, and getting feedback from them as well. And as I mentioned, then because of the iterative nature of the project and its connection to the online experience, we definitely anticipate that MoMA Audio Plus will continue to grow and adapt and expand. So we welcome you to come to New York and try it out and give us your feedback. And then again, hopefully the public version will be available later in the spring. Thank you so much. Happy to answer any others if you want to talk more.